All right. Looks like we're live now. Welcome, everybody, to another Serious Angler podcast, episode number 118. We are welcoming Trait Zaldain. How are you doing today, Trait?
Hey, guys. Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right. I hope we can give you a little break to talk fishing. I know you've been pretty busy today. Seems like you guys are still pretty busy right now, but hopefully we'll take some of your time and just talk fishing.
No, that works for me. I love to talk fishing. It's perfect.
No doubt. So you guys been out on the water recently? I know you guys had some pretty gnarly storms come through. I don't know if it hit your part of Texas, but I know
we got a storm coming through right now. If you hear that, yeah. We're in North Texas, so the hurricane hit, but it didn't touch us. But where we live, we're kind of in Tornado Alley, so we get some pretty gnarly stuff, just not the hurricane stuff. So it's all starting to pick up. Seems like recently.
Oh man, it kind of seems like everything's like 2 or 3 weeks later this year. I don't know.
Everything's been later and then drawn out too. You know. So,
yeah, it's been a very, very weird year. This is the shortest ice season we've had up here in New York. We only had like a month of solid ice, which is fine for me because I don't like ice fishing. So it worked out in my favor. But, yeah, no doubt. But so just to kind of start things off before we get rolling in the podcast, I like to ask everybody kind of like their first story, that first bass catch, who got them into it, that whole ordeal. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so dude, here's the weird thing. Everyone talks about like they can remember their first bass catch. I can't. I was super young, like really young. It's just part of my life. So my dad was the president of the bass club most of my life where we live. And I grew up fishing from I can't remember when I started. That's how long I've been fishing. But he started out like I would perch jerk, like that's what I call it, like just catching bluegills like off docks and stuff with like ham and stuff, like as like before I could talk, you know, that type of thing. And then I just grew up in a boat and crappie fishing, bass fishing was what my dad preferred, but I did it all. Just not tournament fishing. My dad tournament fished, but I didn't. But I've been fishing my entire life. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, nothing crazy. You know, just this country story. You know.
I hear it. Yeah, mine was I don't like you. I don't remember my first story, but my dad likes to tell everybody that I was crying like a little baby when I caught. Literally, I was a little baby, but I was like a 2-pounder, and I was too afraid to touch it, so I was bawling my eyes out. But apparently, ever since then, I was hooked. So.
I had a girl. She's 9 years old in my boat like a week ago, and same thing, dude. She would catch them, and she super patient. She did not want to touch the fish, and I was blowing my mind. She's super smart girl and stuff, and she was like, "No," and she'd freak if I got it close to her, and I'm like, "You just caught it though," and she's like, "No," she wouldn't touch it. It's blowing my mind.
That's funny. So. I haven't gotten a chance to catch up with you yet on what your season's been like this year. I know everybody's season's been a complete roller coaster, but yeah, but how has it been thus far, and what are you looking forward to going into the fall?
Yeah, so we had our January Open. We got that one done before anyone knew COVID was really a thing. And then did I have a second one? I don't think I had it's so weird. Trying to think of how it started. I guess we didn't have a second one. So we went from January all the way until like May until we had another Open. And then we had one. We got an Oklahoma one in. Did poorly at both. Standard for me, to be honest. And then we haven't had one since. So we have 6 Opens that we have to get in. We start next week at Rayburn, and then we have to fit them into December. I think me and Chris, one stretch we go 7 tournaments straight. It's like crazy.
Oh my.
Yeah. So I know that getting into that, I'm always rusty in Florida, you know, just like I fish all winter, but I'm still, when it comes to like tournament pressure, super rusty and like making those decisions.
Yeah.
Then I got really rusty, and we had that second one in Oklahoma. So I'm interested to see how next week goes, but hoping, because they are jumbled up so much, that we can find some sort of like rhythm and momentum. You know, and there won't be any downtime, no time to think, no time to, you know, do anything but just tournament fish. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, trying to get some confidence early on, and then try to keep that moving forward for the rest of them. That's smart. Yeah. Definitely. But I'm sure I know you're definitely not alone in the Florida struggle bus. So that kind of applies to a lot of people, unless you're from Florida or the South. And
Dude,
I don't know many people not from Florida that do well in Florida.
every time I think I've got Florida, like I'm like, oh, this year I understand Florida. Watch this. I'm like, oh, then the tournament comes. I'm like, I'm an idiot. Weather comes in, and I'm just like, I give up. I don't understand.
No doubt, it's very overwhelming. I've only fished down there a few times, but in the times I have, it's just like you get out there and it's like, okay, where do I start? Because I feel like I should start right here.
Yeah, big salad bowl, like no like contours or anything. It's all about grass, and I feel like if you haven't been raised in it, it's really hard, to be from somewhere else and identify with how those fish, respond and move and things like that.
Yeah. Now, on a typical open for you, how many days of practice are you usually getting in?
I don't really like to practice a lot. I used to, and I'm a head case when I practice too much. So like we have Rayburn coming up, and I might practice Sunday, but probably if I do Sunday, it'll still just be a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then maybe a couple hours on Wednesday. But I'm the type that the more information I have in my head, like the worse, because I'll go back to history instead of what's going on in the moment. And what I've learned with the opens is it's like a different strategy, because there's no true off limits. So some people go there like a month ahead. And those fish are constantly being just the pressure is stupid. And then you have co-anglers who show up. They don't give a rip. They're going to, in practice, like stick a hole in anything they can, because that's their vacation. I get it.
Yeah.
So by the time the tournament gets there, those fish are not doing what you would think they should. It's not like normal. So if you have something in your head, like it's going to change by tournament day. And the clearer my head is, the more open I am to like going with the flow of tournament day. So that it's really hard, because you want to be that person that's outworking everybody, but then you almost you're kind of hurting yourself when you do it that way. It's a weird thing. I wish they would put true off limits in the opens. I really do, but I get why they don't. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's what they say. It's 90% mental, right? So it's one of those things where if it's mentally, better for you strategy wise to not practice. Obviously 90%, that's the majority. You might as well stick with that plan.
Yeah, I feel like too that's what gets a lot of people who make the elites in the situation once they get there. They're so used to practicing a week and a half, that when they get on the elites, they've got 2.5 days. They don't know how to lay their practice out efficiently. And so the sooner I do that, if I ever do make the elites, the better I'll be once I get there, the more prepared.
Yeah, you won't be as spun out saying, "Oh, I only have 2.5 days to figure this place out."
Exactly. I'd rather get my teeth kicked in, like learning on the opens, than get to the elites, because it'll be a whole nother, level of hate.
No doubt. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. But you bring up history too, and history is probably the biggest culprit for a lot of people. Because especially when you're struggling to find something, it's hard not to go back to where you found bites, right? Because there's the whole deal of you don't leave fish to find fish, and where those fish have been. But in reality, you shouldn't go that way. That's such a tough deal, because it can go both ways. Where the fish could still be there, or they won't.
Tough. But they, it's like that home link curse you hear about. People get that stuck in their head, how fish are supposed to be, or where they're supposed to be, and that's, I think, too, like why some locals, when the elites come to town, they're just like, oh my goodness, because they get in this pattern like of how they've always fished. And then these guys come in that don't have any expectations, and they open up the locals' like eyes, like, oh, there's other ways to look at this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially there's a little bit more pressure, like kind of like you mentioned, when it's your home lake, people are kind of expecting you to do well, and then you got your buddies texting you saying, "Hey, we picked you for fantasy fishing. You better do well." So
yeah, that's a lot, dude. Every time I see like someone right on Chris's wall, like, "You're on my fantasy team, don't let me down." I'm like, really?
I couldn't imagine seeing that, because then you got it's like in the back of your mind.
Yeah. And you're also just like, come on, guys, not right now.
I hear that, no doubt. But so between you and Chris, obviously you guys travel a lot. Mm-hmm. So just a curious question. I asked a lot of people that that travel a bunch, because I'm always kind of curious in general. Do you have like a favorite lake or part of the country that you guys like going to, whether it's for an open or an Elite Series tournament or whatever?
Yeah, normally we spend about 6 to 8 weeks in upstate New York every year. We didn't get to this year because of the COVID situation. I stayed home because of the quarantine, the 14-day quarantine. But normally we come up because we usually will have an Oneida, a St. Lawrence. We'll drive our rigs there and then fly down to ICAST and come back. Megabass usually comes up and we spend a week with them. Got a couple of buddies from California that normally fly out. Like we like to stay and fish upstate New York. That's our favorite where tournaments go. If we had an option, Clear Lake would be the same way. We love Clear Lake, but it sucks because we haven't been able to go out there as much the last few years, and the tournament trail doesn't go there either. So I'd say upstate New York for sure. That's our favorite.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed that Cayuga, because that's my home lake. I was pretty bummed that Cayuga got taken off the list. But a lot of people say that Northeast. Do you guys have like a lake in particular that is like your favorite? You know, you kind of have a little bit more added excitement when you go to, especially in that 6 to 8 weeks you're up here.
We like to fish Lake Ontario, you know, as long as the weather's nice. But usually, we get a place in Cape Vincent and just kind of post up, you know.
Yeah.
So
you can't not. That place is very magical.
Yeah, we're actually coming up in November when we really don't have time to do it, but we're gonna fly up there and probably have someone drive one of our rigs up, and we're gonna fish one of the pools on the St. Lawrence that doesn't get fished a lot. Me or Chris have never been there, but we're gonna do that with some people. So
that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I know. So
it's interesting because St. Lawrence River is this very renowned place, and there's only especially now with COVID, because there's not a lot of people up there in that region of New York, so it really doesn't get that much pressure.
Not like you think, right?
No, especially this year. It's more of the middle, Finger Lakes and Erie and Ontario that are kind of getting some pressure, but that should be a lot of fun. I mean, the numbers are obviously still there. The bigger fish are obviously still there.
Yeah, I really like Oneida, and I was pretty bummed when they canceled the Open there, because that's one lake I've had some really bad finishes, but I've had some really good moments there too. And so that one was probably outside of Lake Louisville on the schedule for the Opens. I was really looking forward to, and I was really bummed when they canceled it.
Yeah, that is probably the most stingy lake we have here. And that's actually where I'm packing up to go for this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm not into a boat just yet because I'm still paying off college loans, but so I'm riding the Bass Nation Kayak Series in our state championship on Oneida this Saturday.
Oh, that's awesome! I'm jealous. I love that place.
It's driving me nuts right now. I'll tell you what.
Don't forget about the largemouth.
Exactly. That's my thing right now. Exactly how your mindset you kind of spin out for practice. Well, I'm going and I've practiced past few weeks. So one day I'll go out and I'll try to target one or the other. Just try to get ready to kind of get an idea of or feel what they're doing.
Sure.
And it's gotten me spun out right now. So I'm headed there tomorrow to try to figure something out the next couple of days. But
you'll be fine. The cool thing about Oneida, why I like it so much, it's really not that big of a lake, especially when you think about where there's so much. There's a big portion of it that you can just completely ignore. But my thing about Oneida is that, to me, it's very easy to pattern. And that's something that the more times I go, things just stick out even more to me. It's real easy if you get bit here to see and look at how that's set up and be like, all right, let's go run this, bloop, bloop, bloop. And it's so easy to pattern.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. It's a little bit easier to bounce areas in a boat. Unfortunately for me, I have to figure out my technique better.
Pattern fishing might not be as fun for you as for me.
Yeah. No. But I figure it out. We get it done. But it should be interesting. Top 5 go to the national championship. So that's the goal. And that's down your guys' way. It's in conjunction with Ray Roberts with the Classic. So.
Oh, heck yes. Is it on? What lake is it on?
Rumor is it's Fork. So we'll see. I don't know how it's actually going to work.
That conversation going down, and rumor or whatever, maybe Tawakoni too.
Tawakoni, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to make it to that point I'm focusing on this weekend, and then obviously after that, then I'll get my gears ready for Texas. But I've never been to Texas, so either way, it's going to be an experience in itself. But
good luck. What's the grass like on Oneida this year?
Rough, very rough. There's some parts where there's some healthier, coontail or milfoil, but we're struggling up here, universally in New York with all of our Finger Lakes, especially. We don't have healthy grass much anywhere.
So you said y'all had a kind of a weird winter, like the ice didn't stay around. So did a lot of stuff die off or not?
So there's two things that are kind of basing around the chatter with all of us anglers in New York, what we think why it's happening. Mm-hmm. Essentially what happened is our winter, we have like this weird 2-week period where it goes from the low 30s and 20s to the 50s, 60s, and then right back down to the 20s. So we think because that grass started growing when it got in the 50s, 60s, water temperature kind of grew a little bit, not much, and then we think it just killed all the grass from that point, going right back cold for another month. It's just like a weird swing that we get from transitioning from winter to spring, but also in certain lakes they spray it and they throw out pellets really hard, and it's been escalating each year, and it's not a lot of fun, especially Cayuga. You can go out there almost any other day and see them cutting grass, I know they put down pellets, which sucks, but
that sucks.
Yeah, it's our pleasure boaters here don't like to get grass in their motors, apparently.
It's Tracy. So we're in Texas and we're pretty friendly. Our Parks and Wildlife is definitely on our side, but homeowners, they rule. The
money.
They run the boards and everything, so we deal with it too here.
It's tough because here, I don't know if you guys, it's not on every lake, but we have certain lakes here. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but they're called weed mats. Mm-hmm. So they lay them down by their docks and everything, so that when they swim, they don't have grass in their feet. But instead, they have hooks in their feet because people snag them all the time.
Yeah.
Especially early season when there's no docks in, you can't see them.
Yeah.
So you're beating the bank with a square bill or a jerk bait.
Crazy.
And you think you load up on one, you're like, yep, nope, it's a weed mat.
That's weird. Never even heard of it.
But we're not allowed to put structure in, but people are allowed to put on weed mat.
That's what I was saying. Like, I'm pretty sure those would be illegal in Texas.
Yeah, it's such a tough argument, and it goes back and forth. But I don't know. It's been a weird year for sure. But a lot of our amazing grass fisheries are not what they were, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, but it's kind of cool though. With that being said, you see a little more resurgence of some smallmouth when it comes to some of the tournaments. Guys are switching gears and adjusting, so pretty cool. Because the largemouth have been just very difficult to figure out.
I'm gonna slide away for just like half a second.
You're fine. No worries.
My dog's outside the door crying right now. We're good. The guys must have left or something.
No. Getting into some trouble.
Yeah, he's like trying to break the door down, so figure I'll give the pain a rest here.
So moving forward then into the fall, because you mentioned you have a few tournaments coming up. What are you looking forward to most?
So we have Louisville at the very end of the season. That's like 40 minutes from my house. And then we have Rayburn next week, which is about 3.5 hours from here. So I'm excited about those two. We have Hartwell. I don't think I've ever fished Hartwell. I've fished Norman and some lakes around Hartwell. But I'm, for whatever reason, looking forward to Hartwell. I just think like it's going to be a tougher tournament, and some of my, like what might play with the spots and stuff might play into my wheelhouse. And then some of them I'm just like going fishing, we got Cherokee. I've only seen it when Chris fished it in like pre-spawn. And then Lay Lake just got added. That's in December. Never been there. I'm trying to think what else we have. I mean, there's some, just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, and Lay's the one that is the reschedule from Oneida, correct?
Yeah, that's in December. So, it's cool to have 2 Texas lakes. Not really my favorite lakes, but anytime I have anything that kind of I'm familiar with, that helps. But I think Hartwell I'm most excited about for whatever reason. I just feel like even though I've never fished it, like it might fall into my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Well, now that you said that, I'm curious, what would you say your wheelhouse is? Like, what is your strength, whether it's maybe area, region, or style of fishing? What is that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a region, but just I like I call it like power finesse fishing, like little crankbaits, but like deep divers, like a bunch of the Japanese style stuff, little swimmers, just like light line situations, but that you're moving. I don't know how to explain it, but I'd say it's
I
called.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just usually when it's more of a grind, and you can implement those techniques, that's when I generally do compete with people,
Yeah.
which it happens a little more than you'd think in the opens just because of the amount of pressure, but
Yeah.
I don't think that'll play at Rayburn. I think we're gonna have a lot of big baits and stuff, but maybe at Hartwell. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay. So essentially what you're trying to say is like, because I'm just trying to get a grasp on it. Somebody's beating the bank with 12-pound test and square bill, like a 2.5, let's say.
Yeah.
And you're coming behind with 8 to 10 with like a Fritz or something like that.
Yeah, like a little. I used to like the OSP brands. The Blitz brand, like the little tiny blitzes and stuff. I like a Texas finesse rig, which is basically a finesse worm on like a spinning setup with like an 8-pound to 10-pound tatsu. Like I'll fish that in grass and around pads even. Just like what you would normally do as a Texas fisherman, just downsized, like super downsized.
Probably gets you a lot more bites too.
Yeah, a lot more bites, and maybe it's like me being a woman or something. I don't know. Just I feel like it's just like a little softer approach, to the same things.
Probably definitely escalates the heart rate a little bit more, especially being around pads.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually fun. Like that when I caught that big one on the James River that year. I had a finesse worm on spinning gear around pads. I mean, it's just you get the bite. And the first thing is getting the bite, right? That's the way I feel. So you get the bite first to be able to have a chance to put it in the boat. So if it won't bite, something else, but you get bit on light line, then you got to figure it out from there.
Yeah, no doubt. You see a lot of these guys, and I personally, in my mind, I could never do it just because I freak out. I'm paranoid. But they'll go up, like, say, the St. Lawrence River and they'll throw 6-pound tests for some of these smallies. And I
would do that on the St. Lawrence. Like, I fish with, like, 10 to 12-pound tatsu. Like, I don't – 6-pound on the St. Lawrence. Nope, not with those fish.
There's certain areas, too, especially when you're in a drift where it rubs up your line real good, too. And I don't know. I would be freaking out. It would take me 10, 15 minutes just to get in a 3-pounder. I'd be worried the whole time.
Yeah, no, I'm the same there. I'm totally the same, Yeah.
That's funny. So one thing I wanted to bring up, too, because I think they're really cool because I like, the team aspect.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, shed light on, say, like the Polnick team, with them, Kyle. What's Brandon's girlfriend's name again? Tiffany.
Yeah.
I don't. Why did I forget? I literally watched their Champlain episode this morning. That team aspect, I like how you guys have, you, Mac, and Chris, the Zaldaingerous, which I think is probably the coolest name in fishing, by the way.
Tell that to the president of Megabass, because right now we're arguing over that. You see, if you listen to this.
What?
This is cool.
So did that was that like a spur of the moment thing? Is that something you guys like collectively as a team kind of drew out over a period of time, or what's the kind of dynamic of that?
Just like us getting together like we did, like how it's unfolded. Like most people don't know this about Mac, because he just turned 16 today. Mac's a kid. And when COVID hit, Mac had reached out to Chris like a year ago, and he had, made almost like a pitch saying, I want to get into video content, and can I follow you around? Chris was like, sure, And Max said that Chris was the only angler to respond to him. The rest didn't that he reached out to. So that's how we met Mac. And then COVID hit, and I kind of have like a business mind regarding some of this stuff, like I handle Chris's deals and things like that. And when COVID hit, like the fact that tournament fishing could go away flashed in front of me. And I was like, we have got to do something. Like our sponsors aren't going to want to pay us if we're not fishing tournaments. Like that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so I told Chris, we got to do something. And so I sent Mac a text and I'm like, hey, are you guys in school? And he said, no, like school's indefinitely canceled. I'm like, you want to go film? You want to come out here and stay with us and film? And that's how it got started. And now Max had to go back to school. So we have a new guy, Johnny Z, Johnny trying to go places, if you ever heard of him. And so that's really how it started, was just me being like, our sponsors pay us for a reason and we have to provide that value. And the weird thing about me and Chris is we're like more private than people think. Like people think they know us from social media, but only like a very small snippet gets put on there. And we only post like when we're in the mood. We're the worst. Like we're not the type that's like trying to grow on social media and trying to find the right hour to post. Like me and him posted like 4 a.m, like worst time ever. But we're just, if that's when we're in the mood, that's when we post.
Yeah.
And so we've been struggling with like pulling that curtain back and like opening our lives up because we're married and we want to protect that. And we want to make sure like we have our time together and we don't have a camera and aren't editing 24/7. And, our marriage is, it means a lot to us. Mm-hmm. So we've been fighting it, but here we are. And we're doing it and we're going to see where it goes. But it takes a lot of work. And I give someone like Brandon credit for that, there's a part where you have to be selfish if that's what you want to do, because you do not have time to hang out with your friends or to do anything else. You're fishing, and then when you're off the water, you're editing. And so we're doing it. But I'm a little nervous, because, you got people are crude, and you open your life up. A lot of people are going to be like, like have comments, I get made fun of for how I talk sometimes. And I'm like, yo, God made me that way. I can't talk any other way, just like stupid stuff. And that's part of it. But, you can avoid that by not doing this. Right. Yeah. But also like we have to provide value to our sponsors. So this was the next step.
Yeah. The reason I was asking that is because I noticed an upscale, obviously through COVID, with your guys' videos, which I absolutely loved the videos that you guys have been putting out.
Awesome.
But yeah, with comments like that, that's just an easy form of seeing who's jealous of you, and that's all it is.
It's just like people who have nothing better to do, like.
Well, we've got them cooped up, and they're getting all snarky, sitting at home, not doing anything. That's all it is. They're mad at you on fishing.
I pay attention to the forums. Like, it's the worst thing I could possibly do, because I'm talking about there are some people who do not like me on the forums. Like, it's like comical some days, and then some days I'm like, am I that bad of a human? But I pay attention, and some of them I'm like, dude, y'all need to find a woman that loves you or something. Like, you need to like find a hobby, like get off the computer. Like, it's just some people are miserable human beings, and for whatever reason, the internet has just like given them a platform, So, but it's part of it, My skin just gets thicker and thicker as time goes.
Which is good, though. I mean, thick skin is always a good thing, but I mean, with stuff like this, everybody calls them, the keyboard warriors, where they're an expert in everything when they're on their own phone. But
expert in everything, but do nothing with their own life.
Exactly. So you're doing something with your life. So it's a brush to the side. They mean nothing. You guys have a lot of, my good buddy, Benjamin Nowak, who you guys might know his channel, the Smallmouth Experience.
Yep.
He had a great way of putting it. He goes, yeah, you can look at this negativity, which is here, but then you look at the positivity, which is way up here. Yeah. So you just completely ignore the negativity and see all the positive stuff that you're doing. It completely outweighs it.
And that's absolutely right. And that's what people remind me. I've got so many people who support me and who leave me. Like, I've got some amazing people who I've never met who leave me the most positive notes and messages and stuff. And I have to remind myself, like, those people are so much more important, like, and why I'm doing this. And then the negative people, who cares? Like, they're so minuscule to life in general, So
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, no doubt. And we could see, I mean, I remember I saw you at the Classic, actually. I was going to say hi, but you were so busy. I think it was a photo shoot. I was at Shane Lineberger's boat speaking with him. And I believe your boat was right next to you doing a photo shoot. But then you had like a bunch of people coming up and saying hello. And it's like, I'll just message her down the road and get her on the podcast.
That was that we did like a little kickoff for the Classic that night. That was the fireworks show and stuff, right?
Okay. Yeah. It was right out in front of the whole little alley that they had.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I'm super weird. I'm like a quiet person. I'm kind of antisocial. Most people don't realize that. Like I'm a loner. But like I just like for me, I just want to help fishing. And if there's something that I can provide and like a gap I can fill, then I'm gonna fill that gap and help where I can. And so when people ask me to like do stuff like that, like dude, it takes everything in me, like anxiety like flares up and stuff, but I'm gonna do it. And I think some people it rubs them the wrong way, but I'm not meaning to do it intentionally or anything, you know, I'm just trying to help. And it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I completely hear you. When I'm in my thinking space and I'm like in the zone thinking about something, I look like the grumpiest guy ever.
Yeah, me too.
People always think if something's wrong and I'll be like, what? No, to kind of like snap to attention. Yeah.
I had a funny story. I had someone tell me that there was a girl at the Classic who told them that I gave her like the evil eye or something. Girl, I don't even know. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, look, like I'm thinking like I have the worst resting bee face like that exists. Like, and like I don't think people realize like at the Classic, like I'm not just working for my sponsors. Like when you don't see me, I'm like doing things for Chris. Like our day starts at like 2:30 in the morning, 3 in the morning, because the launch site is an hour and a half. And my husband always has to be the first person in the water. So I'm driving him to the lake, dumping him in. I'm going over and doing TV interviews. So I'm having to actually like wake up in the morning and shower. I'm doing TV interviews at the Classic launch site. I'm going from there back to the room to change clothes, to go work the Classic, to go from there to drive back to pick him up, to bring him to weigh in. Like, I don't think they understand
so busy.
Yes, I'm not even like, if you see me walking and I have a face that I don't realize I have, it's not you. I'm exhausted. And
that is a walking zombie right there.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm thinking about something like it has like, you know, and it sucks that people, you know, have those moments and might think that about a person, but I wish they'd look at the bigger picture, you know?
It's a tough skill apparently for people to grasp, to kind of sit back and put yourself in other people's shoes and not be quick to jump to conclusions, which that was a universal trait of go figure trait between a lot of people, even like our country right now. Things would be a heck of a lot better, but unfortunately it's something that's not easy to come by, and people are very quick to jump with emotion, which I'm a culprit of sometimes too, but I've learned to, you know, take a couple minutes and just let yourself relax and then think about it. Yeah, you're much better mellow-headed.
Especially with social media, like I feel like people think they know people just from this little bit they see on social, and they think they're like, oh, I know everything about that person. I know blah 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 blah, and I want to be like, whoa, you like. Even people you think you like on social media, there's probably some really dark things that you don't even know about them. Like everyone has different sides to them, and social media to me is not a good representation of most people. I'd say everybody, you know, because we are allowed to put out there what we want. And naturally as humans, we're going to filter that. We're going to manipulate it to make people think how we want them to think about us.
Exactly.
And I don't care who you are, you do it that way. So, you know, that's my stance on it.
No, for sure. And there's a lot of things, you know, social media, especially if you take a post, for example, where it might be a picture and then a text. And you can read that text probably in multiple different ways with multiple different ways of, you know, how they're forming their attitude. So then, and I'll be quite honest too. I'm at fault here where I've done. I'm like, that guy sounds like a jerk. And then I meet him in person. I'm like, this dude's one of the nicest people I've ever met. Like,
exactly, yeah, because you don't understand what tone they're trying to come across. It's impossible unless you're having a conversation one-on-one with a person. And even then, sometimes there's miscommunication. So, like you said, like especially with what's going on in the world right now, I think if people would take a deep breath and not be so quick to judge and think, like automatically, like come up with something crazy in their head about someone, we get a lot further. But I don't think that's ever going to happen either. So, welcome to 2020.
Yeah, we need 2021 right now.
Yeah,
we need to switch. But so we're gonna start wrapping this up here in a second. But I have 3 questions I want to leave you with.
Sure.
And they're kind of like a little more fun scenario questions. And the first one is, the first one's probably the most scenario question, I would say. Let's say, all right, so you make the elites. You're at the Bassmaster Classic.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the top 10, day 3.
Are we on Ray Roberts? That's what I want to know.
Sure. You're at Ray Roberts.
Perfect.
And it's you and Chris in the top 10.
Okay.
What's going through your mind?
Look, we're the most competitive 2 people you'll meet. That's why we bicker all the time. Everything's a competition. How we wash our hands is a competition. So what's going through my mind is, we got the same bank account. We got the same room. So, helping each other and doing our job, that's all that's in my head. I want to win. He wants to win. And, that's it. It'd be pretty cool, though. You got to think about it, right? Like, most people don't share a bank account. So even though you work with people, you're probably not as honest as you should be. It'll be different with us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not like the Johnston brothers that are splitting checks.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy to me how they do that. But
I've yet to read that article that just got published. I was actually going to do it right after this, but it's an interesting story that I want to read into. But that's funny. I was hoping for an answer like you're about to leave the house and you're cutting all of his lines on his rod on his deck, or pulling the plug out of his boat.
I'm shady like that, but not when it comes to the classic on Ray Roberts. I feel like we would both need to lean on each other extremely hard, because who knows? It could come down to where it's like a spot of 100 yards. And the best thing we could do is me be on one side and him on the other side, and us keeping people out. Who knows, got to be positive on that one. But I probably, I don't know. It could end really badly too. Very
That's fine. Well, so my next question for you, this is probably my favorite question to ask, and I ask it almost every podcast with someone new. And that is, if you could sit down and have dinner and a drink with any 3 people in the world, whether it's the past or present, who would you invite and why? It doesn't have to be the fishing industry.
All right, sure. So Dave Chappelle.
Yes. Finally somebody else who likes Dave Chappelle.
I love Dave Chappelle has a way of telling us what we need to hear that we're afraid to say ourselves. And because he's done it for so long and he won't stop doing it. He never apologizes. And I love Dave Chappelle. I think he's one of the best human beings in this world. No matter what people think. My mom, when she hears that, she's so mad at me. But I'm like, he
how it is.
Yeah, he's what we need in this world. Every time something bad happens, I'm like, Dave Chappelle, come on, come out with something, talk to us. So I'd say Dave Chappelle. There's a guy named Naval. He goes by Naval on Twitter. I think he's the brightest person in business that exists, as a human, whatever. He did and so it would be Naval and Joe Rogan, but they did a podcast together that's worth listening to.
Okay.
Naval is about meditation, but not like the cheesy, whatever, you got to do this way. He's just all about clearing your head, and he says things that just make so much sense. That life is about, you just have to look into him before I'm going to come off super creepy if I, people are going to think I'm a psycho person. Where did you go? You there?
I'm here. Can you see me?
1 second. I got a phone call and it kicked you somewhere.
I still got you audio and video here.
Okay. I can't see you at all, but I'm looking.
Do you have a Mac?
Yes, I do.
That's probably why. It's
okay, here you are.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm a big Joe Rogan fan, so I'll have to go back because I don't think I've listened to that one.
Yeah, so if I could set with Joe Rogan, the ball, who, if you don't follow him on Twitter. That's his best content is on Twitter. And then Dave Chappelle. Oh my goodness, that would be a dream. We could get a lot of things accomplished, I feel like.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. I think Joe Rogan's probably the only one out of the three that's been mentioned, and it might only be once or twice. So I like that.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, I feel like is the same. He's a little conservative, but I feel like he just says things and owns himself, which I appreciate. Naval is a good human being, and he understands like there's more to life than like what we think money provides. But he is about making money, which it's an interesting contrast.
Yeah.
And then Dave Chappelle is just, I think he's like, yeah, I really like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to have a sponsor be like, you have got to stop talking about Dave Chappelle.
That's funny. Yeah, Joe has a trait, and I'll agree with you there. He has a trait that I think a lot of other people, or I think we universally need, is where he might have differing opinions than most, but he's willing to own up when he's wrong. He's willing to. He doesn't have an issue if you have opposing viewpoints with him, as long as you don't force it on him and you're willing to work together and have a civil conversation.
Have a conversation, like extremely honest person. Like all three of them are extremely honest human beings, and I have mad respect for that. And they're okay with being who they are, and they're okay with letting other people be who they want to be too. And I think that's a really cool view.
That's awesome. I like that answer. So my last question for you, and we'll wrap it up with this, is plain and simple, your favorite fishing memory.
My favorite fishing memory. Gosh, that's a
First thing that comes to mind.
First thing that comes to mind was when I was a kid, I went crappie fishing on Ray Roberts with my dad and my brother. And my brother was always who my dad took tournament fishing with him. I never got to go. And I was determined to show my dad who actually could catch the fish. And I just remember sitting on the front of his boat, just like pop, 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 pop. And my dad just being like, how are you doing that? Like literally coming up to the front of the boat to like check the situation out. And I think like a lot of who I am is like to make my dad proud. I know that seems weird.
Normal kid.
Yeah, cool, and so that for whatever reason, it's just like a moment in my life that that I cherish. I don't know why, I don't.
No, I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah, that's like the one childhood memory I have fishing too. So
that's awesome. I like that a lot. It's always it's cool because usually you get like the PB stories, but when you get the stories that are kind of way back when, especially oriented, those are the ones I like to hear a lot. So. Yeah,
I've never cracked that 10-pound mark, so I don't have like that moment. I don't think until I do that, it's not going to be a big deal, and I hope that I do that in a tournament to really like mean something to me. I know that sounds weird. I think a 10-pounder means something to you, period. But for me, I don't want it to be just like a forced moment. I want it to be like, I want it to be something special.
I hear that. No doubt. Yeah. You don't want to go down to Mexico and those lakes are loaded and force it.
There's some like, new lake they just made that you can't put a boat on, or, I don't want it to be like that.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, I actually had Kyle Welcher on last night for our Monday Night Live session. And that was what he explained too, is how his 10-pounder at St. John's was his first 10-pounder ever. So that was his PB, and it was an
Most people don't realize that. I mean, I know elite guys who names that you'd be amazed to have never caught a 10-pounder. Like it's not like they just come along.
Yeah.
That's a fish to be proud of, especially if you're doing it in a public, tough, pressured situation. So that's
for the northern guys too.
Oh gosh, you guys, I feel bad for.
Oh man, I mean, a 7 round here is like catching a 10.
I love that, dude. They just don't grow them, as big up there. So I get it.
They get to a certain age where they just start growing wider and taller than they do longer, and but they don't grow as fast, obviously. But we do have our healthy population of 4s and 5s, that's for sure.
We do, and it's fun. That's one thing I like to do. Like even when we come up there to smallmouth fish, I like to break away and go just jack on some largemouth.
Yeah, for the most part, a lot of our fish, and especially I would say not this time of year. This time of year, it's actually pretty tough, which obviously you guys know because you've been up this way in this time of year. But in the spring, it's pretty hard not to catch fish around here.
I bet, the ice and everything. That's what I always wondered. Like, that's what I like about you guys is y'all have that ice, so it like protects the situation for a period of time, And then I'm envious of California too, and their trout fisheries and how that all works and stuff. Like I wonder, like if we had our Texas Parks and Wildlife up in those places, like what could really go down?
Oh, you could do so much, especially with the Great Lakes and different things like that because it's not very residential.
Exactly.
It would be incredible. But I was actually joking with Mike Huff, who was on a while ago, and he was saying, yeah, just bring your boat down, we'll go fish Cherokee, but make sure you fill your live wells full of gobies and put them in Cherokee.
I've had that conversation with a lot of people, and every time, it's like my dream, and they're like, just, they're probably not going to survive in the hot heat down here. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
I actually have a buddy from Alabama who texted me yesterday and goes, he goes, hey, how much would it cost me to get some gobies shipped down to Alabama? And I'm like, what are you planning? What are you plotting? He goes, oh, just for my fish tank. Yeah, my fish tank. I'm like, oh, that's a load of crap. Like, where are you trying to put those things? But yeah, it is funny. But last question, and I wanted to give you some time to talk about it before we signed off here. Is there any big things coming out with your pink lineup, your pink rods?
Yeah, so we've actually you could call it a rebrand or whatever. We got some stuff that's gonna make its way out any day. I don't even know when the exact rollout is because you got to go through like the stuff you already have in inventory before that stuff rolls. But we got some stuff coming out. We're always working on things. We always want to be better. We want to bring some maturity to the brands. We want to bring some higher quality to the brands, things that women can be proud of. So I do have stuff coming. I can't really talk about it. I can't talk about where, blah, 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 but
there's something coming.
Yeah, 100%. Like my goal for what I do is to build products women can be proud of and to make something that when women come into fishing, they know they can go to and have what they need. And so it's been a fun journey and we still have a long ways to go, but yes, it's always evolving. And got a great group of people in the industry helping out. So it's been really cool.
That's awesome. Well, I'm happy for you and looking forward to seeing that announcement whenever it does come out.
Those announcements kill me, but sure. The announcement on social media, I'm like, Well, hopefully just roll them out. I got some prototypes I've been working with too on some rods. So I'm going frogging with one of them tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. Just working on what I can and hoping that my opens fishing kind of meets with it sometime soon.
Heck yeah, 100%. Well, Trey, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to hop on here. It's definitely been a blast, and I'll hopefully get you back on down the road.
Yeah, but I appreciate it, Bailey, and good luck at Oneida.
I appreciate it. Yep, good luck with your stretch, your crazy month worth of straight tournaments.
Yeah, it's more like 3 months worth, but.
Oh, man. Well, good luck to your sanity and stay alive.
All right, thank you, Bailey.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. That was a blast to get Trey down here. We've been talking for a little bit to get her on. So it was a blast to get her on here, talk about how she got into fishing and kind of that timeline of where she got to until now. So if you guys could go down below, social medias, follow her and also follow Chris and their crazy Zaldaingerous dynamic that they have going on. But again, thank you to Trey for coming on. That was a blast. If you guys are in the market for some rods, go check out some of Trey's rods that she has coming out. Obviously, she mentioned there's an announcement coming out relatively soon. And I'd be failed to not mention Douglas Outdoors. Thank you guys for your support of this podcast. I really do appreciate it. Douglas has been a longtime sponsor of the Serious Angler podcast for almost half the time that this podcast has been going on. So thank you to Douglas. We are a little bit over a year in the first year of the Serious Angler podcast. So if you guys have not already, go down below, check out some Douglas rods. high quality premium rods. Guys, the strength to weight ratio is absolutely ridiculous. Once you put one in your hand, you'll if you put one in your hand, you'll understand everything that I've been barking for the past 6, 7, 8 months, however long it's been. And a huge shout out to Queen Tackle as well for the high quality tungsten jigs, tungsten weights, and innovative tackle. You guys can use code SeriousAngler20 at checkout if you want to save 20%. I know it's a quick intro today, but I want to get everything out now. It's been a busy day for me. I got a couple of podcasts that we're doing today, and then leaving tomorrow to go prepare for the New York Bass Nation State Championship out here on Oneida. There's the kayak. I'm shooting for a top 5. That's what I'm gunning for. I'm going to put my head down and practice. Top 5, move on to the national championship, which, as Trey and I talked about, is in conjunction with the Ray Roberts Bassmaster Classic. So I'd go down there. I would compete in that if I were to make top 5 this weekend. And essentially, if I did well down there, you get to be on the stage, on the classic stage, and be a part of that whole ordeal with the classic. So that's obviously a huge goal for me. That's something I'm striving for. So I'm going to take full advantage of that. So we're filming more episodes tonight so that you guys get podcasts for Wednesday and Friday. So thank you guys again for watching and listening. Feel free to reach out on social media should you have any questions, comments, concerns with the pod, any feedback. Appreciate all of you. Thank you guys again. We'll see you next time.